In older versions of Word, text boxes are simple, even boring boxes with text stuffed into them. In Word 2010, text boxes are new. They're graphic elements in the same families as the other building blocks that you've seen. Like cover pages, headers, and footers, text boxes are used to provide information and to add both graphic interest and a professional design look to your documents. For most of the building block families, you'll find two text boxes in the text box gallery. One will be a quote, and the other will be a sidebar. Annual quote, annual sidebar, and so on. Before you add a text box, you want to make sure that the insertion point is at least on the page where you want to add the text box, and hopefully even in the vicinity. We're going to add a pull quote to this page. It's got space. There's extra white space at the bottom of the story of the Vitalia family and 2 Trees Extra Virgin Olive Oil. So we have the ability to add some interesting design elements. And in the third paragraph, there's a sentence worth holding up. It says, "We constantly strive to be the kind of company my grandparents would expect us to be by giving back to our families, our people, and the world." So we're going to copy this text here so that we can use it elsewhere. And we're going to use that in the pull quote. So I'll choose text box. Remember that we're using the motion family here, so our design elements go together. And we have what's called a motion quote here. And I'm going to click, and it drops it somewhere in the page. Now it says type a quote from the document or the summary of an interesting point. So I'm going to paste my text in. And it asks how I'd like to treat it. I can either keep the source formatting, I can merge the formatting, which is giving me a more interesting look, or I can keep the text only. So I'm going to merge the formatting, and I have a little editing to do here. Capital W, and at the end, perhaps a ... because the sentence wasn't finished. But I like that text, and this is a text box. It's a drawing element. So I can do lots of things with this text box. First, I can position it very easily on the center right side of the page, the upper right-hand corner, the left side in the middle, any place I would like it to be, or I can leave it right where it is, which isn't an altogether bad place. I can wrap the text around it more or less tightly. There's square, there's through, which we don't like, top and bottom, which leaves this wide band. We could put this behind of or in front of the text, or we could edit the wrap point. So we have lots of different choices about how we might work with this. I'm going to just leave this square as it is. I want to make this just a little bit smaller. It's a large box and just a little bit taller. So there we go. I'm going to click off the text box, and you'll notice that it has a blue line and it has a shadow. I can choose some different styles for this shape if I wish, and I think I'm going to choose this nice green right here. Additionally, I can change my word art. I have a couple of little effects going on here. There's actually a shadow that's been applied to this text behind it. I could change to a specific word art style if I wish. Just watch as I make some choices and decide if we like any of these choices. That's a little over the top, sort of like this text better. And I can always increase the size of the text. I like that a great deal. So this is a pull quote. With the pull quote, you actually pull a section of text out of the document and place it in a decorative element like this. Our reader should expect that if this is sitting here in this shape as a pull quote, that this exact text will be found someplace else on this page of the document. Sidebars work exactly like pull quotes. You insert them the same way, and you can do the same kind of design changes with them. The same types of formatting are available to you. But sidebars are generally used for text that's not included in the document. And so we're going to go to page 6, where we have some information about definitions of employee status. And there's a statement about probationary period for new employees that actually has nothing to do with any of these other categories. It overrides every single one of these categories, as a matter of fact. And so I'm going to take this information about this probationary period, and I'm going to cut it and put it in a sidebar. So we're going to choose this text and do Control X. And I just press Control Enter to send this line to the next page. And then I want to position myself anywhere on the page and choose Insert, Text Box. And in Motion, we'll put in this motion sidebar with an accent shadow. Now, I'm not required to use exactly all of the same graphic elements. If I had a reason that I preferred another sidebar like the pinstripe sidebar, I could. Let's take a look at how that would look. That fits right here and actually makes it possible for all of my text to fit. It's kind of a nice fit, but the fonts aren't the same, and it's just not quite what I want. So let's go take a look and insert this matching sidebar and see if I do like that one, which is called Motion. So here's the Motion sidebar. It takes up a fair amount of space. I don't have to allow it to be this far in on the page. I can actually move the entire sidebar closer to the right if I wish. Probably more than I would have liked. And I can position the sidebar in the page, and in order to do that, I might actually want to make this page smaller because this is a very large design element. But if I click this design element, I can move it up the page, for example, or down the page. This controls where the text box is in the page, this yellow diamond, whether it's got a wider margin or a narrower margin, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to paste in my information about the probationary period for new employees. And I'm going to say just keep the text only, so the text will actually be converted to the style in this text box, which was white text. Now, I can format this text. I could, for example, bold this text, or I could choose strong for this text. And I might choose that for the entire sidebar, I'd like all of the text to be a little bit larger because this is important. Additionally, could change this to white, and I can format this as I can any other drawing object. So I have many choices for my shape style. This is the only blue element in this entire document, and I might want to change it to an orange element to go along with the other elements in my document. Here this looks like a button. Notice that we have a 3D effect and a bevel. Here's with a white raised edge. Or I might want to make it green so it stood out. If I were going to have important summaries or important information scattered throughout this document, I might choose exactly the same kind of sidebar or pull quote to use over and over again in order to highlight that document for my employees. These other elements in my document are flat, so I'm going to choose this flat green for my sidebar. And now this probationary period for new employees is no longer buried at the bottom of this document where I may have trouble finding it. It's not quite front and center, but it's front and right side on this page so that no one will miss taking a look at this, whether they're exempt or non-exempt, regular full-time or regular part-time. Sidebars, as we saw here, and our quote box that we entered earlier have slightly different uses. However, they both are used to highlight important or, in this case, intriguing text. And again, by adding an additional graphic element to your document, they add interest and make the document look well designed.